With more and more players flocking to Baldur's Gate 3 by the day, there's an enormous amount of individuals who are unfamiliar with this type of game or any of the previous games from Larian Studios, and that's no issue at all. Today we've got you covered. We're going to talk about combat basics, positioning, general strategy for your composition, and if you're curious about any of the classes that I've got at the moment, I'll leave a link for those in the description below. The only one I haven't covered in a video so far is Fighter, and I'll have that tomorrow. So let's get started here. We're panning the battlefield. In front of us, there's a large number of ranged enemies, and behind us we have a large single melee mob. So we want to position ourselves in such a manner that's favorable for this. The character with the most initiative in my party is my ranger, and this is by design for this character. I use it to pick off key targets. In this instance, I've found a warlock, and I'm going to apply Hunter's Mark, which is a bonus action. This bonus action deals an additional 1 to 6 damage to the target, and the form of a bonus action means that I can also perform a regular action, in this case, the ranged attack. After taking advantage of a smooth 95% chance to hit with my ranged attack, I managed to take out this key target with a single move. At this point, I'm going to reposition my ranged character. I really want to be spread out at this point, just with the massive number of enemies. If they have any form of AoE here, they're going to absolutely devastate my party. Next up is a support character, my cleric, and I actually plan to multi-class this into a ranger as well to take advantage of having some offensive capabilities from a range perspective when I'm not supporting or enhancing the abilities of my other party members. However, at this point in the game, their offensive capabilities are fairly lackluster, and in this case, I just missed the target altogether. Now, the enemy was kind enough to group multiple of its units up, and I'm going to take advantage of this. This next character is my Bard, which is actually a hybrid. I'm using it as a support melee character, and I'll update this build as soon as I get a couple more levels as well. It's been a lot of fun. Now, look at this AoE range. If you notice the arrows underneath the enemy's feet, if they have the red arrows indicated, it actually means you're hitting all the targets. And I'm going to zoom in here so you can see a little bit better. In this case, I've only got 2 enemies targeted, and the one on the left is not in the AoE. Now I'm going to move over and try to adjust this so that I can get all 3. And now I have them all perfect. We're going to cast this AoE and deal more damage by hitting all the targets within that. Now this spell is actually going to persist, and anything that goes through it will continue to take damage from the spell while the spell is up. Like I said, this is a hybrid character with an emphasis on being melee, so there's still more utility I can do here. I'm going to cast my Bardic Inspiration on my pure melee character, which I'm going to leave in the front line to soak some damage on this turn. After that, I'm going to position myself next to the enemy's melee unit in an attempt to draw some aggro from them, and if they choose to move away, I'll be able to perform an attack of opportunity as well. Right on cue, the enemy chooses to move away, so I'm able to perform an attack of opportunity, dealing some additional damage to this enemy just for moving out of range of my own character. In addition to that, the Bardic Inspiration proves valuable as my other party member successfully passes the saving throw. Remember to keep track of the initiatives, and this is at the top of the screen. You'll notice that only the final party member of my composition will have the ability to act, while many enemies are going to get the ability to do so. Now, it may seem logical at first to try to thin the herd. However, in this case, you can see that the enemy will actually get an attack of opportunity, and that's not something I want to risk. This character has already received a large portion of damage, and if I move away, they could actually be knocked unconscious. So what I'm going to choose to do here is use one of my fighter class abilities called Goading Attack, and this is going to give the enemy target a disadvantage if it attacks any other party member other than Lae'zel, and in this case, if they move away from Lae'zel, they also suffer the risk of taking damage from an attack of opportunity. For a bonus action this turn, I'm going to use the First Aid, which will help top off my hit points and allow me to take some more damage since I've left this character in front. Sure enough, the enemies have gone for the bait, and this is largely in part because the remainder of my party is above the stairs, which actually gives them a terrain or height advantage. Now back on the ranger for the second turn here. Quickly checking some options to see exactly what I can do here. Now I have a disadvantage against both of the targets that are closest to me, and that's just because they're too close for a ranged weapon to be at its maximum potential. I want to reapply my Hunter's Mark, and at this point I actually think it's still best to go after the ogre, so I'm going to go ahead and apply the Hunter's Mark here, and take my chances with that disadvantage roll, which still has a fairly high percentage chance of hitting, over 80%. Again, dealing some massive damage, and I can't say enough about how much damage this class can do, especially if you start to pair this with a multi-class like Rogue later on. Now I've got back to the Cleric, and again I'm going to try to take advantage of a ranged attack to finish off this ogre, maintaining the position of the remainder of my party members, and hopefully avoiding any AoE from the enemy as well. At this point I'm in pretty decent shape for the fight as that ogre goes down. Deciding whether or not I want to take advantage of Healing Word, which is a bonus action, an extremely powerful spell because of the bonus action feature, allows you to do something like take out a target with that main action like you saw, and then follow up with healing a party member. In this case, I'm going to heal Lae'zel, the fighter down below, and try to bait some more attacks on this target on the following round as well. Back on the Bard now, I'd love to get this character into melee range of some enemy targets, but I don't want to be too clumped. So what I'm going to do here is take a look around and see which enemies are acting when. And if you notice that when you hover over a portrait on the top, they actually become highlighted in red on the screen, so you can locate exactly which enemy that is. Now, what I've decided to here is actually go after Brawler Rot. And my idea here is that it's very close to me. I can actually go up, expend my action and bonus action, and then reposition myself with the remaining movement speed. In this case, I'm able to even down the target, and then move away and get back out of harm's way. This is something I wasn't able to do on the Ranger because the other enemy remaining there would have had an attack of opportunity, and I don't want to subject myself to any additional damage, especially with so many enemies on the battlefield. Now the enemy was actually kind enough to move out of range of the Ranger at this point, so now I'll be able to adjust the positioning of that character. Now I do want to stay in range of this target just to hopefully keep the melee on me, so I'm going to take a swing. I manage a large damage hit. Now I'm considering using Action Surge. This is a fighter ability which allows you to immediately perform another action, but when I look at the initiatives above, I decide that it's not worth it, because that enemy is not going to act again before any of the other players on my team, so even if I manage to kill it, I haven't really mitigated or negated any of the incoming damage or abilities coming my way. At this point, Lae'zel has been knocked unconscious, and I have many options of getting her back up, but on the Ranger, I want to prioritize dealing damage. I'm going to reapply the Hunter's Mark onto my new key target, and you'll see that if you look under the health bar, it says target is too close. Since the enemy moved away from me, I will no longer be in a position to take an attack of opportunity from them, so I simply back away until that goes away, and then fire a shot off, managing a killing blow. Now I'm going to use the rest of my movement speed, or some of it, to move back into a better position. At this point, I'll use my Cleric to use Healing Ward, again the bonus action, so I'll still be able to act after that, and I'm going to use this on Lae'zel to just pick her up. Briefly scouting for a target I'd like to use my remaining action on, firing away and actually managing a kill as well. So this shows off how powerful that healing ward is, giving you the ability to heal a target as well as perform potentially something of other benefit in the same turn. That's right, healing ward is so powerful that I also took it on my Bard, and I plan to multiclass this Bard to a level 1 Cleric at some point to get additional healing points from this, just because it's so powerful. In this situation, I plan to use Bardic Inspiration instead because I have a piece of equipment that's going to allow the character receiving it to get 4 health points. And I want to make sure that I have a potential of keeping this character on its feet, because if I get crowd controlled in this position at low health, I'll certainly get knocked unconscious again, and I'd like to prevent that. I took careful note when moving forward on my Bard to avoid going through that cloud of daggers, and you'll notice that the enemy just walks right through it. At this point, it's Lae'zel's turn, and since she was knocked unconscious previously, she won't get a main action this turn. However, I have that Action Surge ability, which I saved previously, so I'm going to use that to hopefully get a kill on this target and then move away. At this point, the fight is pretty well wrapped up. And keep in mind that this isn't the only tactic available to conquer encounters like this. A variety of party members, composition, your own strategies can all affect and influence the outcome of the battles, but with some solid strategy, a battle that may seem completely overwhelming at first is potentially doable with your party setup. There are many different things that this game has to offer, whether you're interacting simply with things like basic attacks or skills and abilities that you have, or even interacting with the environment, which I left out of this video because I plan to include that in a separate video. But this is an extremely powerful tool as well that you should be utilizing, or at least learning the basics of, if you plan on playing on the Tactician mode. Again, if you're interested in more specifics of any of the class builds utilized in this video, feel free to check the links in the description below. The fighter build will be coming tomorrow, and I'll update that link as well. Use this opportunity to show off one more combat basic as well, and this is the bonus action leap. Here you'll see on the Bard that my leap isn't high enough or strong enough to actually leap into range of the enemies. And when we get to Lae'zel, you'll notice that I have improved the leap on this character, specifically for helping me engage or disengage from combat situations. As you can see, an enormous difference. I barely have to move in order to take the bonus action leap to get into range and even follow up with a basic attack. After a miss from the enemy, Shirley will be able to finish this encounter off as our characters all get their next ability to act. As always, thanks for taking the time to watch, and have a great day. All that strategy, and the AI in my party just runs through the AoE.